There is really no more perfect mayor anywhere in America to be speaking to you today. Antonio Villaraigosa embodies the values and the mission of the Blue-Green Alliance. The values and the mission in terms of the desire to grow clean energy jobs and create a more environmentally sustainable economy here in Southern California. Mayor Villaraigosa has been working to make Los Angeles the greenest city in America. Back in 2007, he launched the Green LA Climate Action Plan. It's an aggressive 50-step plan to take on pollution and climate change and grow green jobs at the same time. LA has begun building a 21st century transit network with twice the miles of rail, with synchronized traffic signals that reduces idling, and has replaced the bus fleet with CNG-powered vehicles. He's worked with the stakeholders in both labor and the community, especially the Teamsters Union, to reduce asthma-causing emissions by 80% in the Port of LA. I want to share this with you. I was just chatting with them, and now they have 200 project labor agreements in Los Angeles. And most of those project labor agreements are building green buildings, building green transit systems. He's got $10 billion worth of green projects going in Los Angeles right now. Isn't that amazing? He's adopted the most aggressive green building standards in the nation. He's quadrupled the use of renewable energy and reduced water use in Los Angeles by the lowest levels in 30 years. In 2010, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the nation's largest municipal utility, increased its renewables from 4% to 20%. And the city moved up its goal to 33% renewable energy by 2020. A year after that, the state of California followed and adopted the same goals. Antonio Villaraigosa is leading the way. And as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, he's working to expand a clean energy jobs program and vision to cities across America. It's my pleasure to introduce to you a mayor who comes out of the labor movement. It doesn't matter if you live in LA or somewhere else. If you care about growing clean energy jobs, Antonio Villaraigosa is your mayor too. Please give a warm welcome to this man that's doing so much for LA and leading the way in green jobs, green energy, green buildings, green transit. The mayor for all of us, Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Wow. Thank you, thank you. Wow, what an introduction. I might as well sit down. You know, I wrote every word myself. Then I went over, you notice I sat right next to him, and I went over every point in that introduction. And let me thank our leader, Art Pulaski. I've been working with Art since the early 1990s. I think I was majority whip, maybe majority leader, and then speaker. I worked with him when I was out of office, when I was a council member, and now as mayor. Let's give a big hand to Art Pulaski, the leader of the state AFL-CIO. Buenos dias. Good morning. And welcome to LA. I couldn't be more pleased that you chose LA for this meeting. Call me biased, but I think you made the right choice. LA is a city that creates and innovates. It's a city on the edge, and a city that in many ways is the city of America's hope and promise. But I want to say something about the man who spoke before me, Jim Hoffa. You know, I've known Jim for probably, well, at least since I was Speaker of the California State Assembly. But we've become friends and allies most recently when I was elected mayor. And I'll tell you, there is nobody in America, no labor leader in America, that understands the importance of building community-wide coalitions that elevate our individual interest to a collective common interest. The Blue-Green Alliance is alive and well, in no small part because of the leadership of Jim Hoffa and the Teamsters. Let's give them a big hand. By the way, we couldn't be more excited. We couldn't be more excited that he got reelected to another 5-year term. So we have the kind of leadership that he's demonstrated in the labor movement, showing an example of what we can do when we work together. Jim Hoffa, give him a big hand. The other reason why it's so important, I think, that you're here is because, as you heard Art, and this wasn't, by the way, you know, Antonio Villaraigosa, this has been something we've done together. We've dedicated ourselves to becoming a national and global leader in the green economy. Now, what does that leadership consist of? It consists of creating a 21st century green workforce. That means working with our labor and community partners to create training programs and career pathways so Angelenos can find good paying jobs in green industries like energy efficiency, waste reduction, clean tech, solar. It consists of driving change through innovative city policy, because as LA goes, so goes the state and the nation. It's as simple as that. That's right, everybody. It means that we have to change how we do business, how we, make all the connections, how we procure our goods and our services. LA can create incentives for the private sector to adopt more sustainable practices and better working conditions. And I'm glad I got here late. Keynote speaker was supposed to be here at 8 o'clock, but little confusion, got here at 8:30, so I was supposed to introduce Jim. Luckily, the show goes on, and I came afterwards, but it was good that I did, because I got to hear you, and I got to hear your story. And when I hear stories like this, or yesterday I was with the steel workers and hear stories about the car wash workers, or I was with SEIU at a town hall 2 weeks ago and heard stories about contract workers at the airport, at LA International Airport, and they all had the same thing. I can't go to a bathroom break. I can't eat my lunch except when I'm eating on the job. I complain about, a working condition that's not fair and that's right, and I get fired for it. That's wrong, and we're going to fight that, and we're going to work with you. Better working conditions ought to be part of it. But some of that other change that we have to drive, it consists of our using and leveraging our city's unique assets to fundamentally change how we operate. We have the largest public utility in the United States of America, the largest. It's also the dirtiest public utility in the United States of America. And we, early on, saw an opportunity, let's turn something that's negative into the positive. And we said, we want to make it the nation's greenest. And we're moving ahead to get out of coal because that's the biggest reason why we're so dirty. But we also set a high goal. We said we were going to hit 20% renewables by 2010. Nobody thought it was possible. And, You know what? We did. We hit the 20% by 2010. Now, I'll be honest, we didn't always do it smart. You know, we got to be a little smarter as we make these investments going forward. We are going to get to 35%, and we're going to get off coal too. But we're going to leverage what we're doing at that public utility to do other things, to create green jobs, to clean up the environment, to train workers in those industries. The Port of LA, and you heard it. Now, the Port of LA moves more containers on and off its docks than any other port. We want those containers to move in the cleanest way possible. LAX is one of the busiest airports. We want it to be one of the most sustainable. We're leading the way because it's the right thing to do. And we're leading the way because it's what we got to do. Now, 3 years ago, for the first time in history, more than 50% of the world's population lived in cities and towns. In 2015, just 3 years from now, this percentage will grow to over 60%. And according to the United Nations projections, by 2050, 70% of global residents will live in a city. So whether it's LA, Lagos, Karachi, or Kansas City, the residents and leaders of the world cities all face the same basic imperative. They have to balance the need to grow the economy. And I'll tell you, I hear from all these folks, and I've even heard from my friends in the environmental movement, no, it's not about grow the economy, we've got to green it. And I said, no, 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 no. And then you hear the other side, and they say we gotta just grow the economy. No, we got to do both. We got to grow the economy, but we got to green it too. And those two things are interrelated. We got to generate jobs with the equally important need to create an environmentally sustainable community for all residents. And those jobs have to be good jobs. They have to be decent jobs that we can maintain a family on. But let me tell you what's prevented us in the past. Everybody's rowing in the other direction. What's so great about this Blue-Green Alliance is this is an opportunity for all of us to row together. And what happens when you row together? You row faster. You go farther. That's the fact. And we need strong partners with bold ideas and innovative programs. We're going to need partners like those of you who are here today. We'll need partners who are willing to abandon the old ways of thinking and forge new alliances. I say to friends, and you know, when you're mayor and when you've been speaker, everybody comes up and wants something. That's the way it works. Sometimes, as in your case, they want something that's decent and that's right. Sometimes they just want something. And I like to tell people, you know, everybody wants their own way. We got to figure out how we go in the same direction. And for too long, the debate about economic development and the environment in LA, and I heard a speaker speak to that at a reception for Mr. Hoffa last night, has been about economic development versus the environment. And across the country, we've been stuck in an unproductive rut. Look at the Congress, pointing fingers, you know, not being able to figure out how we move our country away from an over-reliance on a dependence on foreign oil. Now, one side said the highest priority was the economy. The other side disagreed. The environment had to come first. But thanks to organizations like the Blue-Green Alliance, this debate is starting to shift. It's not an either-or proposition. With the right partnerships, the right initiatives, we can do both. We must do both. We'll grow the most when we grow the greenest. And we've seen that here in LA. When I took office in 2005, this is the approach that we pledged. We went to groups like the Teamsters, like the Sierra Club, like the NRDC, like the public health organizations. We even went to business and said, hey, look, we've got to approve EIRs, we've got to grow the port, we've got to invest in it, but we've got to green it because the port is the dirtiest polluter in the Southern California region, and there are public health consequences to that, and we've got to protect that public health. We also said we got to grow good jobs because the only way you're ever going to do this is if you pay people what they're worth, if they have the resources to be able to do what they have to do. Now, Los Angeles has long been the capital of smog. How many of you were born and raised in LA? A few of you. Well, you know, those of us who were born and raised in LA, we remember the days when you couldn't go out of the classroom because the air was so dirty. I know it sounds silly, but there were lots of days like that. You had to stay inside. You don't see that LA anymore. We're still working on our air quality, don't get me wrong. But we've done a lot, and we've done a lot working together. It's long been known as the capital of smog, and we want to make it the capital of sustainability. We set one of the most ambitious carbon reduction goals of any major city. You heard it? 35% over the next 20 years. But to hit this mark, we've had to change our institutions and abandon the old way of doing business. It hasn't been easy. I've had a few general managers at the Department of Water and Power. I said, hey, look, we're greening this utility. Are you with me or are you against me? Because if you're against me, we're going in another direction. Why? Because we have to. We've had to change our institutions, as I said, and it's not been easy. The negotiations have been long. There have been protests. Quite a few lawyers have gotten involved, but we've been tenacious, and we've seen results. The Port of Los Angeles and LAX are the two most important pillars of the LA economy. Both directly provide tens of thousands of good-paying jobs and indirectly support thousands and thousands more. But in 2005, we had failed to unlock the full potential of these two critical assets. Modernization projects at both facilities were mired in community opposition and litigation. We realized that we had to change our approach. So we sat down with the port and the airport, with community and labor, with environmental organizations, and with business, and we forged a new consensus. We made needed improvements to these critical pieces of infrastructure, but we said we'd do so in a sustainable way and in a coalition with key stakeholders. We're investing $1.5 billion in the next 5 years, $3 billion over the next 10 to improve the docks, terminals, and warehouses of San Pedro and Wilmington. The investment in the first 5 years alone, 20,000 jobs. And by the way, good-paying jobs. Project labor agreements at that port. Every step of the way, we insisted that greening the port has got to go hand in hand with growing the port. Since 2000, against all of the naysayers who said if we did this, we'd kill business. Since 2000, LA has led the country in container ship traffic in the worst recession since the 1930s. And the ships and the trucks that haul all of this merchandise produce a lot of soot and dirty air. We reduced emissions from ships and instituted our Clean Trucks program to get old, dirty diesel trucks off the road. With the support of the Coalition for Clean and Safe Ports, a Blue-Green Alliance, our Clean Trucks program recently reached an impressive milestone. I want you to hear this. Our port has set the world's highest bar for clean air standards for short-haul trucks. And as of the first of this year, every single drayage truck calling at our port is clearing the bar. But for the experts here, how about this? A 76% reduction in sulfur oxides, a 69% reduction in diesel particulates, and a 52% reduction in nitrogen oxides. Residents of Wilmington and San Pedro are breathing easier. And just as we said, when everybody said that if we did this, we wouldn't compete, that it would put us out of, the competition derby that you always have when you're trying to grow good jobs and green jobs and the like, guess what's happened? What we said would happen. As LA goes, so goes Oakland, so goes Seattle, so goes Vancouver, so goes New York, so goes Houston. They're all going to clean their ports because they have to. And if they want to do it with the kind of success we did, they need to have a blue-green alliance leading the way. Now, we still have some unfinished business. Working, I believe so strongly in this alliance that we said, we'll hold it. Port's doing well. The community's doing well. Public health is improved. The air is better. Everybody's doing well except independent truckers. And what I said was, in fact, I want you to hear this. I don't just come over here and give you a rap here, then go and speak to the Maritime Association and give them another rap. I was there, what? Larry, where are you? 8 days ago. In my speech, I talked a lot about business. I was talking to all the business people at the port. Talked a lot about business, I admit. Talked about what I just mentioned. And then I said, we've been in a lawsuit. And we appealed and appealed, and we fought and we fought, and we lost. But we're not finished yet. I said it to 1,500 business people. I made it clear. I don't like to talk with forked tongue. I said to them, we're going to look for every way we can to make sure that the independent truckers who are misclassified, who are really employees in every respect of the word, that they get their justice. And I can tell you that Jim Hoffa and I are going to fight to do that. You know, now at LAX, we're investing $4.1 billion to develop an airport that is more modern, more efficient, and more competitive. By the time it's finished, the modernization at LAX will have generated another 40,000 jobs. Do you hear that? 20,000 at the port in the next 5 years, 40,000 jobs at the airport. These are the new jobs because of what we're doing to modernize it. During our first term in office, we adopted a comprehensive sustainability plan for LAX. It set stringent environmental standards for airport operations and for airport construction projects, so that when the modernization of LAX is finished, we'll not only have an airport equal to our spirit and our style, we'll have an airport that's fast becoming one of the country's leading airports for LEED certified buildings. And we're doing this under another project labor agreement with local hire built in. Now in 2008, the voters of LA County did something almost unprecedented for this day and age. They voted to raise their taxes. Voters passed Measure R, a half-penny sales tax that will raise $40 billion over 30 years for infrastructure and transportation. The support of labor and the Blue-Green Alliance was critical. All of the public health organizations got involved. All of the environmental organizations got involved. Labor got involved. And over the life of Measure R, we're going to create almost 500,000 jobs. Now, that means building new rail lines, expanding our bus lines, improving the safety of our roadways, and importantly, getting people off their addiction to the single-passenger automobile. Talk about a green... But you know, the world I live in, you know, yesterday I was at an event, and some of you know I've been a long-time advocate of immigrants and long-time advocate of changing our immigration policy to reflect our values as Americans and giving people a pathway for citizenship. Not a very popular thing with some people, but it's who I am and where I stand. So I'm at a group, and this woman starts pointing at me, telling me, what are you doing for the DREAM Act? What are you doing for licenses for the undocumented? What are you doing to change our nation's immigration policy? And of course, when you're in these jobs, people point at you all the time. They scream at you all the time. So after we passed Measure R, you know what people said to us? Hey, Mayor, you said you were going to double the size of the rail system. You said you were going to build the subway. Where's my subway? This is 3 months after we passed. And I said, sir, this was a half-penny sales tax, not a 10-cent sales tax. This is over a 30-year period of time. But you know what? Sometimes it's good that people point their finger at you because it gets you to think. And I started thinking. I said, you know what? Imagine if we would accelerate 30 years of programs in a 10-year period of time. So we came up with a plan, and we called it the 30-10 plan. 30 years in 10 years, creating 166,000 jobs, because it wouldn't be all the 500. It would just be for the public transit portion. It's green, it's jobs, it's addressing congestion. It's a win-win. Well, everybody said, 30 years and 10 years? Are you crazy? Well, and they said, what's it when you give something to your district, just for your district? Oh, it's an earmark. This is just for LA. And I said, no. This is for everybody that wants to put up their own money. So I'm president of the Conference of Mayors. I started knocking on all the mayors' doors, and I said, hey, everybody, there's no money right now. Well, there's money, but they don't want to spend it. The Congress doesn't want to spend money. They're addressing deficits and debt. What if we did this? What if we put up our own money, got them to loan against the difference? We can accelerate infrastructure investment, create jobs, clean the environment, and it doesn't score against their budget because they're just loaning the money and we got to pay them back. Well, initially, almost every mayor said, I'm not for that. I want a grant. Well, I said, no. Let me explain something. There aren't no grants right now. Not with these people, not with either party, but particularly not with the Republicans, right? So we came up with the idea. We called it America Fast Forward. 188 mayors are for it, accelerating our projects by getting the federal government to loan. Yesterday, the Senate overwhelmingly passed the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Bill, 74-22. America Fast Forward is a key part. 3 million jobs. Good jobs. So I wanted to come here today to do a couple things. Give a keynote, but more importantly, I wanted to say to you, every one of you got to go home and you got to call your Congress member. And you got to call the Congress member, and particularly the Republicans, because they've got to vote for $110 billion investment in infrastructure and construction jobs, in public transit, in moving America forward. We can't keep on living on the investments that our parents and our grandparents made. The best source of renewable energy is the renewable energy we don't use. So everybody, how many of you are going to go home and call your Congress members? Come on, get your hands up. These are good jobs. Lastly, let me just say, LA is a large property owner. And in LA, and unfortunately, many of our government buildings waste energy and water. In partnership with the Apollo Alliance, a coalition of over 25 unions and community and environmental organizations, we've launched the Green Retrofit and Workforce Program. And Apollo's in the house. It's an ambitious effort to retrofit all city-owned buildings and create a career pathway into good-paying union jobs. Now, the Workforce Development Program targets residents of some of our city's most economically vulnerable neighborhoods. It gives them the job training they need to qualify for building trade apprenticeships. We've jump-started the program with $14 million in ARA stimulus funds, and now the first green retrofit workers are busy at city buildings throughout LA. The buildings are getting greener, our energy bills are getting smaller, and the taxpayers of the city are saving money. These workers are gaining on-the-job training that will put them on a new career pathway with a bright future. Now, our Department of Water and Power, which I talked about, is responsible for nearly a third of the city's carbon emissions. As I've said, we moved to 20% renewables. But what I didn't say is that's the equivalent of reducing our carbon emissions by 2.5 million metric tons. You know, as a result of everything that we've done to green LA, you want to hear this? We signed on to Kyoto a month after I became mayor, the Kyoto Accords. You remember them. It said reduce the carbon emissions by 7% below 1990 levels by 2012. We did it by 2009. By the time I'm out of here, we're going to be at close to 13%. So almost double the Kyoto standards by 2013. How about that? But working with the DWP, we've started the Repower LA program. We're increasing our investments to create more energy-efficient homes and businesses across the city. And I've told them I expect that to be the most robust program in the United States of America. But we've done it with the IBEW Local 18. We've done it with some of the environmental organizations and community organizations here. We've created a pilot program to weatherize homes and create a new career path for Angelenos. Now, with federal money, so all those people that say that federal money doesn't create jobs, well, with federal money, the program has put LA residents to work, weatherizing the homes of 2,400 low-income residents. With a strong and broad coalition, we can work together to make the DWP the nation's leader in energy efficiency. This is finally my final point. In LA, only 29% of our garbage, and you heard some of the folks speak to it earlier today, ends up in a landfill. 29%. We divert or recycle 71% of our trash. No big city in the United States of America that I know of, anyway, big city. I'm not talking about these tiny little boutique cities, all right? I'm talking about countries like LA. None divert or recycle 71% of their trash. And in fact, among cities with over 1 million residents, we lead the way. But our landfills are lining up way too fast. Working with our community partners and all of you in the Don't Waste LA Coalition, a blue-green alliance, we're reorganizing waste collection for commercial and multifamily buildings. The goal of this reorganization is to give private waste haulers the incentives to be more efficient, take dirty sanitation trucks off the road, and improve working conditions for their employees. We want the strongest, most comprehensive waste and recycling program in the United States of America. We want a model system that will further increase our diversion rate, that will protect our air and our streets and our communities, and that will create good jobs, green jobs. Now, climate change is a man-made crisis. Don't believe those who say it's just one of the cyclical things that happen, in our environment. But what does that mean? We only have ourselves to blame. We got ourselves into this predicament. That means we can get ourselves out. As municipal leaders, as labor leaders, as environmental leaders, we must not be deterred by the slow pace of change on the national and international levels. We've got to step into the breach. I said it, and I wasn't joking. As cities go, as city-states like LA, New York, Chicago, Paris, Shanghai, Rome, Tokyo, as cities go, so go their nations. So this is an important opportunity for us to do locally what we want to do globally. As we create greener, more livable cities, we have the opportunity to reimagine the very foundations of urban infrastructure and urban economies. This is a tremendous challenge, but we must and will rise to meet it. The world's environment hangs in the balance. I want to thank you for the work that you've done in coalition with us over the years. Our work is not finished yet, because I can tell you that everybody is watching what we are doing. Yesterday I heard that we were called the Unholy Alliance. And I said, if we are the Unholy Alliance, that makes me the Pope. And if I'm the Pope, what we do is infallible. But in all seriousness, what we do here, we do for our kids. What we do here is create a social compact that says, yes, we want to grow business. Yes, we want to grow jobs. Yes, we want them to be green jobs. Yes, we want to train people for those green jobs. Yes, we want them to be jobs that give people dignity and respect. Yes, America can be better for that. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.